When people hear the phrase, the sealed gate of Jerusalem, their minds immediately turn to the Eastern Gate, also known as the Golden Gate, standing in quiet defiance, locked and unmoved for centuries. It is a gate with no ordinary history. It is a gate mentioned in the writings of prophets, linked to promises, and tied to the return of the Messiah. And though it has been closed by human hands, it cannot silence the unfolding plan of God. What if the very stones of that gate hold a message for us today? What if the immovable is not as immovable as it seems? The Eastern Gate faces the Mount of Olives, the very place where Jesus ascended and where prophecy says he will return. Long ago, it was sealed, as if rulers of the earth could somehow prevent the eternal king from entering his city. The Ottoman Sultan in the 1500s ordered the gate to be walled up, placing heavy stones and even a cemetery in front of it, imagining that such measures could stop the fulfillment of divine prophecy. Yet what is a wall of stones before the one who spoke the universe into being? What is a barrier of mortar before the one who said, "Lift up your heads, you gates, be lifted up, you ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in"? Every time a visitor sees that sealed gate, it preaches a silent sermon humanity may resist, but the promises of God march forward. The sealed gate is not just a structure in Jerusalem. It is also a mirror of the human heart. How many of us have gates we have shut tight? Areas of life we keep sealed off, thinking God cannot enter, or worse, hoping he will not. Yet the same Lord who one day will enter the Eastern Gate also longs to enter the closed places of our souls. Now imagine this. What if the very stones of the sealed gate began to tremble? What if signs appeared that it could not remain closed forever? For centuries, it has stood still, untouched. But in recent times, small shifts, changes, and even rumors of movement have stirred hearts. Whether physical or symbolic, the image of the gate moving shakes us awake. It tells us that nothing remains frozen forever when God has appointed a time. Consider how often the Lord allows signs in the visible world to awaken his people spiritually. A shaking in Jerusalem's gate is also a shaking in the hearts of those who are watching. The shaking is not there to terrify, but to remind. The king is not delayed forever. He is coming, and his approach will not be stopped by stone or iron. But there is something deeper. That sealed gate also represents delay. For generations, people have said, "Where is the promise of his coming?" They see the gate, shut and unmoving, and assume it will always be so. Yet the movement of the gate reminds us that what appears permanent is temporary in God's timeline. Just as stones can shift after centuries of stillness, so can the world change in a moment when the Lord moves. Think of your own life. Are there prayers you've carried for years, hopes you've seen sealed behind gates of impossibility? Just as the gate of Jerusalem may stir and shift, so too the closed doors of your life can move at the appointed hour. What seems immovable can suddenly open when touched by the hand of the Almighty. Jerusalem has always been a stage for prophetic signs. From the days of Abraham to the time of David, from the building of the temple to the footsteps of Jesus, the city has carried a weight far beyond its size. And the Eastern Gate, staring across the Kidron Valley toward the Mount of Olives, stands as a silent participant in this unfolding story. To hear that the gate might move is to be reminded that history itself is moving toward an appointed climax. The sealed gate also raises a challenge. If the city of Jerusalem is preparing for the king, should not our hearts do the same? If prophecy is written in stone, then how much more should it be written on our lives? Watching the Eastern Gate is not enough. We are called to be living gates, open for his glory. Centuries ago, the psalmist cried out, "Open for me the gates of righteousness. I will enter and give thanks to the Lord." That is not only a prayer for the city, but a prayer for the soul. The Lord does not only want to return through the stones of Jerusalem, He wants to return through the stones of our lives. Each act of surrender, each step of faith is like a hinge swinging open for His presence. So when people say, "The sealed gate is moving," let us hear more than a report about masonry and history. Let us hear a call to readiness. The shaking of the stones is the shaking of complacency. It is a reminder that the one who was lifted up on the Mount of Olives will return to that very place. And the gate that has been closed will not remain closed forever. And here lies the most personal meaning. The sealed gate represents a choice. You can live with your gates closed, locked, and walled up, or you can open them before the Lord now. The King will come through the eastern gate, whether it is ready or not. But how much greater to welcome Him willingly, joyfully, expectantly. If you look closely, you'll see that what appears unmoving may already be shifting. The earth groans, the nations stir, and the hearts of believers sense the nearness of something vast. The sealed gate is not a monument of despair, but a signpost of hope. It is a reminder that what is sealed by man cannot remain sealed when heaven decrees otherwise. Lift your eyes from the stones to the sky. The gate may move, but more than that, the King is moving. And just as Jerusalem waits, so should we. Not with fear, but with hope. Not with despair, but with readiness. The sealed gate is preaching a message today. The King is on His way. The sealed gate of Jerusalem has stood for centuries like a puzzle piece in the great story of prophecy. It is not merely stone and mortar. It is a witness. Every time the sun rises over the Mount of Olives and shines upon that gate, it silently points toward the return of the one who will walk through it. But to understand the depth of this sign, we must go beyond the surface. History records that the Eastern Gate was sealed in the 16th century. A ruler thought he could outwit the promise of God by locking the entrance where the Messiah was expected to come. He not only filled the opening with stones, but also planted a cemetery outside, believing that a holy figure would not cross such ground. It was a bold act, an attempt to keep the eternal King outside the city He calls His own. Yet there is an irony here. The very act of sealing the gate made it a greater sign. The gate became a prophecy in stone, silently declaring, "The world may resist, but God's plan remains." Now consider this. What does it mean that, in recent times, people have spoken of the gate shifting, cracks forming, or stones moving? Whether one sees this as symbolic or literal, the image is powerful. Movement in the sealed gate speaks to movement in God's prophetic timeline. It is as if creation itself is groaning, preparing for the King of Glory to come in. This is where the message becomes personal. Each of us has areas in our lives that resemble that sealed gate. Maybe it's a dream that has lain dormant for years. Maybe it's a place in the heart where hurt and disappointment have built walls. Maybe it's faith that once burned bright but has been covered by doubt, like stones stacked to block the light. These sealed places seem permanent. Yet God has a way of moving what looks immovable. Just as He will one day open the gate of Jerusalem, He can open the gates within you. But notice something important: the gate has not yet opened. It has only shown signs of shifting. Why? Because prophecy unfolds in stages. The shaking is a warning, an invitation to pay attention. In the same way, when God begins to move in our lives, He often starts with small tremors, subtle changes, quiet nudges, gentle reminders. These are not to be ignored. They are signals that something greater is coming. Think of a seed buried in the ground. For a long time, it looks dead. Nothing moves. But deep beneath the soil, life is stirring. The roots press outward, the shell begins to crack, and before long, the earth itself shifts as the plant breaks through. The sealed gate is like that. What looks immovable is not truly dead. It is waiting for the appointed moment. This truth should bring us hope in a world that often feels sealed shut. Look around nations in turmoil, hearts divided, confusion spreading. It feels as though the world itself has been locked behind a gate of chaos. Yet just as surely as dawn follows night, the King is coming, and no wall can stop him. Every sealed gate in history, whether empires, powers, or rulers, has eventually fallen when the hand of God moved. And so the sealed gate of Jerusalem teaches us two lessons. First, it is a sign of assurance God's promises will be fulfilled, no matter how long the wait or how strong the opposition. Second, it is a call to readiness. If the King will enter through the city's gate, then we must open the gates of our own lives before him. Think again about the words of the psalmist. Lift up your heads, you gates, be lifted up, you ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Notice that it is not only the city gates being addressed. It is as though the psalm is speaking directly to the hearts of people. We are living gates, and the Lord longs to come through us into this world. But what does it mean to be an open gate? It means refusing to let fear build walls. It means choosing faith when circumstances push toward despair. It means welcoming the Lord not only with words but with actions, showing kindness, living with integrity, seeking truth. Each of these is like opening a hinge, making space for the King to enter. The sealed gate in Jerusalem may stir with movement, but the greater question is whether our own gates are stirring. If stones are shifting in the holy city, then perhaps God is whispering that it is time for his people to awaken. If the city gate is preparing for his return, then we too must prepare. Imagine standing before that sealed gate today. The stones are massive, centuries old, weathered by wind and rain. They look unshakable. Yet even the hardest stone cannot withstand the word of God. The King will come, and the gate will yield. Now imagine your own heart in the same way. Perhaps it feels sealed by disappointment or hardened by time. Yet if you invite him, the same power that will one day move those stones can soften your heart and make it new. And here lies the deeper meaning. The movement of the sealed gate is not only about Jerusalem. It is about you. Just as the city prepares for its King, you are being prepared for his presence. Just as the gate will one day open, your life can open to a greater purpose, a deeper peace, a stronger hope. So let the sealed gate be your reminder. What is closed today can move tomorrow. What is sealed now can open at the appointed time. And when the King comes, nothing, no wall, no ruler, no fear, will keep him out. Lift your eyes from the stones to the sky, for the shaking of the gate is the whisper of his nearness. And just as Jerusalem waits, so do we. Not with uncertainty, but with expectation. Not with doubt, but with faith. The sealed gate is not a symbol of defeat. It is a promise in stone, waiting for its fulfillment. The gate is stirring. The King is coming. And the question for each of us remains, will our gates be open when he arrives? The sealed gate of Jerusalem continues to stand as a silent testimony. Year after year, century after century, it faces the Mount of Olives as though watching, waiting for the day of fulfillment. It has weathered storms, wars, and rulers who thought their decisions could shape eternity. Yet behind those sealed stones lies a story greater than any ruler could imagine. The story of God's promise and the certainty of his return. In earlier reflections, we spoke of the gate as a sign and as a mirror for our own lives. But now let us go even deeper. Why does this gate matter so much? Why has it captured the imagination of prophets, scholars, and pilgrims alike? Because it is more than architecture. It is a doorway between the temporal and the eternal, between earth and heaven, between the present age and the age to come. When Jesus entered Jerusalem riding on a donkey, he came through this very gate. Crowds shouted, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." But not long after, that same city would turn against him. He left the city, walked up the Mount of Olives, and spoke of his return. The eastern gate became both the place of welcome and the place of waiting. Now, sealed shut, it stands as a monument to what is past and a prophecy of what is yet to be. The sealing of the gate was meant to keep him out, but in truth it keeps watch for his return. That is how God often works. What the enemy intends for resistance becomes a greater testimony of his sovereignty. The sealed gate says to the world, "You can try to lock out the king, but he will come anyway." It is a wall turned into a witness. But here is where it becomes most personal. Each of us is also a kind of Jerusalem. Within us are places of worship, places of sorrow, places of hope. And within us there may also be sealed gates. We may think certain areas of our lives are too broken or too closed for God to enter. Yet the sealed gate reminds us that the king does not need permission from stone walls. If he has declared that he will enter, then nothing can stop him. Still, the Lord gives us a choice. We can open the gate willingly now, or he will one day open it by his own power. How much better it is to open the gates of our hearts willingly. Think of how much joy is missed when we keep him at a distance. Think of how much peace is delayed when we close off areas of our lives. The sealed gate is not only a prophecy for the city, it is a warning for the soul. The movement of the gate in recent times, whether through cracks, tremors, or reports of shifting, should awaken us. It tells us that time is not standing still. Just as the stones of Jerusalem may not remain unmoved, so the timeline of God's promises is moving forward. We are closer now than ever before to the day when the King of Glory will appear. But prophecy is never given just to satisfy curiosity. It is given to stir us to readiness. The sealed gate moving is not about stone alone. It is about people. It is about you. The question is not only, when will the gate open? But also, am I ready for the King to enter my life? Think of the parable Jesus told about the 10 virgins waiting for the bridegroom. Some were ready with oil in their lamps. Others were unprepared. When the moment came, only those who were ready entered the celebration. The sealed gate of Jerusalem is like that parable in stone. It tells us, be ready, for when the King comes, the moment will not wait for hesitation. And readiness is not about fear, it is about hope. To be ready is to live in expectation, to live as though today could be the day when the King arrives. To be ready is to keep your lamp burning, your heart open, your faith steady. To be ready is to treat every act of kindness, every word of truth, every step of obedience as preparation for his coming. The sealed gate may look like a barrier, but in reality, it is a promise. Its very closure declares that there is a day of opening ahead. If it were not sealed, its significance would not be as powerful. But because it has been closed for centuries, the day it opens will be unmistakable. In the same way, the delays in your life, the prayers unanswered, the hopes deferred, all of these will one day reveal the power of God's timing. The very waiting will make the fulfillment sweeter. So the sealed gate preaches a message of patience. Just as Jerusalem waits, so do we. Just as the gate is not forgotten, neither are you. God has not sealed you off to abandon you. He has sealed you with a promise of a greater day ahead. Let us picture the moment when the King returns. The Mount of Olives shakes, the sky splits with glory, and the eastern gate, silent for centuries, opens at his command. That will not be the day of fear for those who have opened their hearts already. It will be the day of joy, the day of fulfillment, the day when every tear is wiped away and every longing satisfied. Until then, the sealed gate calls us to live differently. It calls us to hope when the world despairs, to believe when others doubt, to open our hearts daily as practice for the ultimate opening to come. It calls us to look at what seems immovable in our lives and say, this too can move in God's timing. The sealed gate is moving. History is moving. The world is moving toward the return of the King. But most importantly, your life can move too. You do not have to remain closed off, locked in fear or regret. The King stands at the door and knocks. If you open, he will come in. So let the sealed gate remind you what man shuts, God can open. What looks impossible today can shift tomorrow. What seems delayed is only waiting for the appointed hour. The King of Glory is coming, and no gate can keep him out. Lift up your heads, lift up your hearts, and be ready. The sealed gate of Jerusalem is not just about the city. It is about you. And just as surely as he will one day walk through that gate, he will also walk into the life of every person who makes room for him. The stones may tremble, the gate may shift, but the greatest movement is when hearts open wide for the coming King.